I told myself that I am done and that I won't turn back. I told myself that it's a thing of the past. And then I told myself that if I fall, I have to get back up. If I don't, I'll have tomorrow to resume. Cause every day is a new day, a different day, a new day. And every day is a new day, I tell you. And every day is a different day, a new day, a different day. Every day is a new day, I tell you. Tumelang, everybody.
What it do? What it do? What it do?
So first of all, like what one of that song, ne? New Day. Yo,
Do you love
it
it?
kickstarts me. You know, like, do you remember when Kanye released like Good Morning?
I
Like
get
New
that.
Day, Good Morning Yaka, you know? So hi everyone. It's your favorite
Hello.
duo, the Cheeky Natives. And today we'll be in conversation with a fave.
Yeah.
Hello, Harrison Mkhize. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good, guys. How are you? Thank you for having me.
We are going through it all because your EP has taken us through every stage of like love and being and go and unofficial go, but you're going and you think you're fine, but you're not.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
get
Like
that.
you get that, right? So it's like you're at every stage of like go, but not go. You know, when you're still in denial and you're still posting those statuses on WhatsApp, like I'm strong. You know, one person's treasure is another person's trash. No, it's a necessary stage of grieving. Why are you laughing like y'all don't know what I'm talking about?
No,
I
it's
know.
interesting because you know when it starts, ne? Something is going on. I'm strong. I'm my favorite is you know, Elia, just because someone it isn't loving you right doesn't mean you're unlovable. Why you see when you start that, then you know you are like you're
No,
within.
no,
But the next
no.
level, friend, is once you start quoting poetry. Yeah, well, Worcestershire, you know, somebody's inability to see your worth. Dun, 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 dun. You are in the final echelons. You are there. You are there. You have the final
You
fight.
guys. No, you guys are too far. You know where the ultimate goal on WhatsApp is seen? It's when somebody removes their profile picture.
So, anyways, everyone who's joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, hello. So today we'll be talking to Harrison Mkhize, who is an artist who has released A Stranger's Love, largely known as a radio host, now R&B and blues vocalist and songwriter. Harrison uses his musical talents to journey through love and has interpreted it as bringing the epicenter and the core of human existence. In this body of work titled A Stranger's Love, Harrison Mkhize has delivered six soulful songs that will remind you why it is important to love and how to consistently operate from and in frequency with love. The EP is currently open for it's not open for pre-order, it's open for download. Y'all better be listening. And after today, you'll be listening every single day. So, Harrison, I suppose Alma and I were having a conversation about the album because, like, when I knew the album was coming out and it came out, I was like, Alma, you better listen to this album because
Ah,
we to get this person on our show ASAP. But we were talking about this idea of like, you know, like for a long time, particularly in the 2000s, like R&B has been something that we haven't heard a lot of, right? But it
mm,
seems like the new school of R&B is like a nostalgic modernized R&B, right? So it's not like an R&B. It's an R&B of the 90s, so to say, right? But there's a little bit of a Afro something yana, right? So
Mm.
yes.
we wanted to know like your sound, right? Where does it sit, right? Because of you know, artists often are like, you know, people are like, I'm a jazz musician, but I'm really not a jazz musician because I studied classical music, for instance, right? And so
Mm.
you dubbed yourself as an R&B artist, right? But what does that mean to you in the context that you found yourself?
For me, in fact, this is a very interesting question because it's so hard to answer. When I'm not trained as a musician, first of all, so angazi nokuthi mangase ngithi ngiyaqala ngithi I am a jazz artist or I'm a this artist. I don't even know where I'd start. But I guess my music sort of comes from one, the people that I grew up listening, and as you had said before, I grew up listening to a lot of R&B. I grew up listening to a lot of soul music, and as an artist, I think naturally that's what I'm starting off with. I'm starting off with releasing what I grew up listening to. I grew up listening to Abo Babyface, Abo Destiny's Child, Abo Beyonce, and I think that's the music that I'm making. But also because I'm South African, and also because I'm South African and I'm a born free. Notice my quotation marks. Um, I also want to bring in that Afro soul stuff. I think it's quite important that as a South African, as I'm telling the story of R&B and of love, I do it in a South African way that sounds familiar to the South African. You know what I mean? So I think that's where my sound is. It's R&B, old school R&B, but with an African, South African twist or influence.
So I'm interested in the backstory. I'm always interested in the backstory because I want to know what was happening. Hey, Abele. That's why I run a literary podcast because Rata Ditaba. Facts. Why people act like Rata Ditaba is a bad thing? It's a good thing. Like, anyway.
It's a good thing, way too.
I'm thinking, anyway. So I'm interested in the backstory because I feel like this, Letlokhonolo and I was talking about how this EP takes through so many different stages of love, but it's not linear, right? In the way that the journey of love is not linear. So you start off and it's complicated and we're like, ay, lahla lo muntu. They ain't no good, they trash, leave this person, okay. Next song, you're like, yes, but I still want you back. I'm like, but did you? Oh, okay. Maybe turn the red flags into a carnival. It's okay. And then you're just like, it's a new day. It's over right. It's over bright. It's over beautiful. And there's this thing about like how love itself and relationships themselves are not linear, right? So you go through so many stages before you realize it's actually, let me remove my WhatsApp profile picture. And I'm interested in the backstory that informed how you chose the ways in which these tracks were listed and ordered in the album.
What a difficult. You know, first of all, I'm a person that's always trying out in love. If I was washing my dishes today, and as I was washing my dishes, I asked myself a question of how do you want to be remembered? And I said, if anything, I want to be remembered as the guy that always tried to find love. Ever since I knew, I think especially romantic love, like in terms of family love and in terms of friends, I think I got that on lockdown ever since I was a child because I knew that I had a beautiful personality, and friends really loved that. I knew that I had values that friends gravitated towards. But I think ever since I was 19 years old and I started exploring relationships and love in that paradigm, it's been such a journey because initially, especially with complicated, you think you have it, you think you're doing it correct, and it gets really complicated, and it gets complicated really fast because first you're enjoying the journey. It's like I'm meeting someone and I'm loving them, and you show parts of yourself, and the relationship ends, and you're just there like, did I show too much of myself too soon? How did it get so complicated so fast? And there's a part of the song where it says, a part of me always knew that you were not good for me, but I ignored it because of the dreams that I had. And you're just there like,
but I want to
oh,
go there, right? I want to go there.
It's the turning the red flags and thinking they're a carnival. You know what I'm saying? Because
yes,
then you're like, maybe
go
it's orange.
I want to go there because I think that it's interesting to think about, like, I think about myself particularly, and I think about like how when you exist on the fringes of society and people have told you you are this, you will not find love, and you're this and you will not find love. that when you get a semblance of it, right? When you get something that looks like it, maybe it's a little bit of attention, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you term that and you morph that into love, right? And so when
Mm.
in the beginning, you know already that like this is not going to end well, right? But you say in the song like the future looks so similar to the past, right? And that is like, I know this rodeo. I've been to this rodeo, but I'm believing that this is going to be different than everything that I've experienced before, right? But the
Mm.
stop signs are there, right? Like the red flags are not a carnival, they are actual red flags, right? But I think because particularly when you think about romance and romantic love, because society has told people who love the way that I love, for instance, that like it's not natural, it's not wanted, it's not needed, you know, all these other bad
Mm.
things, that you start believing at the back of your mind that, right? So every time the complicatedness of just relationships, because perhaps that's what happens, you go back to that, right? And so when in the beginning things are hunky dory, you cling on to that, right? And I think that complicated for me does that. It's like you're just like, no, no, how did it get so complicated so fast, right? Because like, first of all, like this was supposed to be the one. More than anything, this one was supposed to be the one.
And that's really the essence. That's almost the essence of the song, because it's like you even Little Honolo, you take time to be the good guy, and you're like, I'm getting the fact that this is complicated. I'm getting the fact that there's a possibility that this doesn't work out, but you're deliberate and you do the work. And it's like, I'm actually going to be the good guy. I'm actually going to be the good guy in this situation. But still, it gets complicated, and it gets complicated really fast. And it's like, it's over. I don't know. I think, ooh, there's a part in the song that says, na, 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 that I still love you, come back to me. I know you hurt me, but I've healed and I've learned that love
Alenga.
ain't easy. I get this. And the
Oh,
pain is a part of the package. What?
definitely not.
Okay.
Did you definitely not? Did you
But I
know?
I was interested in the interesting part of the song where you're just like ngaze ngayigwaza ngowami, right? Because there's an element of, and we always do this. So relationships end, then you're like, this person is trash, na 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 na. But the additional layer to the introspection is the idea of your ownership in the situation, right?
Yes.
And often, like, placing the blame on the other person means that you get to absolve yourself of the self introspection. So you get to say, Letlhakunalo was trashy. They were so trashy. I was done with them. They didn't deserve me. But there's the additional part of, I saw the red flags. I saw A, B, C, D. I said that you could come back and harm me again because I've healed. So
Mm.
I've done all the work. Come back and harm me again, right? And there's like a thing about self introspection, and not to speak of like to victim blame, because that's not what we're doing, but we're saying like when relationships end, there's a tendency not to own your parts in the ending, because you're the good guy, right? You're the good guy, you're the good person, you got hurt by like, but what is your ownership? What is your ownership in that? And I found that interesting. I felt like that added the layer of the duality, because relationships are not black and white. It's not the Tlokonolo hurt me, they're a bad person. There's
Mm.
elements of, I think I'm a good guy, but I also harmed Letlokonolo in a particular way. And I wanted to speak about that because there's an ownership that you then take in the song that is interesting for me. That's what makes it complicated. Trashy people, that ain't new. There is nothing new about trashy people. But the idea that when Oswazingi Yako, that for me was just like, yeah, drag me, take me there.
And and really, that's it. Really, that's it. Unfortunately, when somebody says they love you and they say they want to hold that space for you, and you say, okay, fine, hold that space, it's a situation of where you open the window to 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 get the fresh air. No mosquito bazongena. And you, unfortunately, it's the nature of the game. When you open up yourself to love, as difficult and as painful and as brave as it is, it's quite a brave thing, because it could go either or. And if it doesn't work out, I'm sorry you're hurt, but you kind of almost did it to yourself. There's a part of you that said yes to it. Maybe not the hurt, but you did the tricky thing.
But you know
You
what's
took the
interesting
risk.
about like complicated for me
Mm-hmm.
is sort of this good personhood, right? And the good
Mm,
personhood is it's sort of like in many relationships, particularly romantic relationships, like you always put your best foot forward, right? And you try to show up as your best self, right? And I
true.
think like in as much as you can take ownerships for allowing certain people in and ignoring the red flags, right? Because you need the intimacy or the comfort or the love or whatever. There's also a real reckoning to be like, I did the best that I could, right? And like
Yeah.
I was kind, I was this and I was that, right? And sometimes people truly are trashy, right? And like we gotta tell the truth that sometimes people are trashy, and that's also not taking accountability for the part you played in the trashiness, right? Because the part you
True.
played in the trashiness is you saying I'm doing all the. It's like you being a good person in spite of badness. So it's like Alma is hurting me, and I'm still a good person. I'm like, my love is going to change Alma. My love is a miracle worker, and that is the problem, right? That like sometimes our our perception of goodness is the detriment because we think
Mm,
miracle workers that we can change people, right? So you like you know the part of the song is like you try to be a good guy and still you get effed, right? But it's like actually baby, there's an arrogance in the goodness because you're
That's what I
thinking that
was
your goodness
thinking.
you're thinking that your goodness is so whatever that it's going to change.
ah,
But also sometimes the good guy, the goodness is performative, right? So I think of like how good guys, I'm a good guys. Ooh, good guys will be the death of us. I'm a good guys are
exactly.
often very problematic. So even that goodness is performative, and so we need to speak about I was the good guy because often people feel like I was the good guy, and that then absolves me of particular things. But even that good guy, that persona can be it can be very problematic, and we see the ways in which people weaponize being the good guy or being the good person, almost as though there are things that they are just intrinsically worthy and deserving of because I'm a good guy. I'm a good
Mm,
guy. Like me good. I
mm.
mean, why do you want brownie points for just being a proper person? Like what is this? You know? So I'm always interested in the performance of goodness. And I think that there are particular people who weaponize being good. Like, I'm a good person. I'm so good, good, good. Me, I'm good. No, you're not. You're trashy like the rest of us. But there's a performance of goodness
Exactly.
that almost makes you a martyr, right? And you use this for like martyrdom, you know? Nama guys, I'm
And
teaching.
that's the last part of the chorus says, "Indoda mayikuthanda ayiphathwa kanje."
Hello.
That
That
th-
well, but
that
that Charles, that sentence.
ah, the, for me, that part it's twofold, right? The first part of it is that indoda mayikuthanda, that is on him, and
Mm.
then ayiphathwa kanje, that's on you. Clearly showing us that everything that I do is going to affect, and everything that the person does is going to affect me. So it's a two-way street. We 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 have to be careful of how we dance with one another because we're sharing this stage, and ultimately that's the part that makes everybody go, well, not everybody go crazy, but that's the part that grabs your heart. It's the, so you mean even though I'm the good guy and I think that's the bad guy, that we're still equally responsible for what happens in this space? And the answer is yeah.
So it's interesting because when I was listening to Complicated, I thought about one of my favorite essays from Dear Son to Run, a Black Spirit memoir by Akwe Kameze. And they write here in Impermanence the following. They say, the note you wrote to me is still full of hope, but it contains versions of us that are both ghosts now. I cry quietly in my bathroom, so Catherine won't hear it. I want to try again with you. I don't know when to stop. I refuse the limits. I refuse the limits with you. But I'm only a small god. But here is the deities bigger than me. So I have to obey the limits, even as wrong as they feel. I still feel that if you worked with me, we could bend the world into something we wanted. I wish you believed that too. the first step into world bending. I can't believe for both of us, and it makes me so angry and sad that you gave up. It's never too late. That's a human lie. There is no late. There is almost mostly, because now is so flexible, I find. You can change a whole life, a whole world inside of a now. The change can be a ripple, but you can crack a whip and tip break the air of the future. The handle is still in your hands, don't you see? This is how God shaped reality. And I thought about that, right? About this idea of world bending, because the part where you speak about like you've hurt me, but hurt is a part, pain is a part of the process. Is you saying like, why are you leaving? Like we can
Mm.
still work, right? Like I want to still try with you, right? So this idea
Yeah.
for me it encapsulates this idea of impermanence, right? Like that at the beginning of like most relationship you enter and you think, oh my gosh, this is a forever type of thing, we're gonna be there forever. And then when the end comes, you're like, but I wanted to try with you, you know.
Yes.
Also for me, the that line that just touches my heart, it also speaks to like when you love people, right? You treat them a particular way, and
Yes.
you don't get to treat them like trashy, because then it means you don't love them, right? And so
Yes.
that line for me encapsulate that idea that like, oh my goodness, like you can't purport to love me and still treat me in a trashy way. Because yes, relationships end. And when they end, they can end amicably. They don't need to be these messy, complicated things. They can just be like, you know what, Harrison, you and I are no longer at the place we used to be at the beginning of this relationship. And I think it's best
Yes.
to go our separate ways for X and Y, Z. Not as Alma said, oh, wait till Alma and they used to do this and they used to do this and they used to.
Mm.
I feel for me that's outside of the ethos of love, right? And love in its truest sense, right?
I'm absolutely with you because you I think no human being is perfect, and if you are honest with yourself and you're able, like for example with me, I know that I'm not a perfect person, but I know that when I love someone, I try my best to protect them from the evil parts of who I am. And I'm very deliberate in protecting you from my darkness. I think also a level of it is if Mkhize mina ukuthi I'm a person that likes to speak ill of people, but I say that I love you. As soon as our relationship ends, I must not expose you to that side of me. We can break up respectfully, and I still protect you from my evil tongue, type of thing. So I'm with you. I'm connecting with what you're saying. That was a beautiful passage.
I want to talk about one of my favorite songs. Okay. Oof, guys. Okay.
Let's listen.
Umntana Umuntu. Listen, okay. So Umntana Umuntu is one of my favorite songs. And I think I'm captured by like the hopefulness in the song, right? Because in the song you also say
Mm,
"Ngizohlala ngithembekile kuwe, nawe uthembeke kimi,"
Yes.
right? So it's this idea that like
Yes.
this thing is reciprocal. So I'm doing the work, you're doing the work, we're doing the work to make this work. And so hlala sithembeni, right? Because I also feel like one of the tenets of love is just trust. I have to be able to trust that you won't manipulate the things that you know about me in order to harm me or in order to harm yourself, right? And I don't know that love can exist without trust. I can't fathom it. But I find it so interesting that you placed that song where you did, and I want to talk about the hopefulness because people often say it's the hope that kills you, right? And the song,
Mm.
like you've gone through go go go, and now you're saying, listen, ngiyothumela abakhongi kumina, lalela abangani bakho, they won't know what hit them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I find the placements of the song so particularly interesting because you follow the journey of this person who's been harmed, who's been hurt. It was complicated. Wako, it's a new day. Akasakufuni. And now you're saying, I'm putting myself out there. I'm trusting you. You're trusting me. I'm trusting that we will make this work. And I'm putting myself out there in such a public way as well. I'm saying to you, this is
Yes.
a public declaration of what I think about you and how I feel. And it's such a hopeful song. And I want to talk about hope in the midst of hurt, right? Like, because you often want to imagine that you don't carry your baggage, you don't carry your pain, you don't carry your trauma into these things, into these new relationships that you start. But that would be false. And I want to talk about that hopefulness, like hope in the midst of all these things that happen to people who love and who are in love.
Elma, I first thank you for following the story so meticulously and thank you for following the story and getting it. At that song, also another thing that is very important about that song is that that is the only song that is in Vernac.
Listen, okay, I wanted to talk about that because this is the language of love, okay?
But
Thanks.
also, like,
Yes.
it's really intentional because I want to speak about the power of it being in Vernac, right? Like, I don't know if you can talk about like Tembe Kumi in English, man. This Ingisi doesn't have that thing to say "Utshepa nna ke tshepa wena." Like it doesn't have that thing. So I think even the choice of singing that in isiZulu, right, sort of even gives it the stronghold that speaks about the hope and the trust that you want to encapsulate at this point in the story.
And the person. Okay, so I don't know if I should say this or not. This
See,
is
what
crazy.
latest is that it will
Who
make you
is the person who inspired this song?
Exactly.
That
I'm really,
person.
the person. A very big part of the song is I was taught these feelings in the song by a particular someone, to say, when somebody says to you, I found you and you found me. This does not mean in any way that usuzoba la emhlani wami sengizokubeletha njalo. It doesn't mean that now you're going to be next to me 24/7 or we'll talk for 15 hours a day. Um, but I know that I found you and now sumtolile. And I'm making a conscious decision that I'm here and you are here. Um, and nobody's gonna believe it. It's crazy, but it's happening. You know what I mean? That's where the song is. That's where the hope comes from. To say ngiyakuthanda, ngiyakuhlonipha, and angikwenzi manje. I've decided ukuthi ngizokwenza forever. It'll be me and you, and ngizoba into forever. It's not um it's not a loud thing. It's a stern, anchored situation, and yeah. So really, that's what that song meant for me, and for it to be positioned in that way. Like I think also when you listen, that's where the anchor. Like I really felt like that's where we wanted to anchor it because we were then taking the album to a different direction after that song. It had to go through that public declaration, but also that's not in your face. It's not in the faces of people to say, please see what we're doing. No, 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 no. No, it's just for the family and for the friends and for us forever.
and
Oh,
you know
do you
what?
know, I love that you're saying that. Sorry, I love that you. I need to wax lyrical about this song because the other day I was at Woolworths. Okay, so I'm at Woolworths. There's this couple behind me, and these two are just like loving each other. I can't even explain it. Okay, these two come back from a day at the office, and they are in this long queue. We are one Angela queue where we've all gone to buy the Woolworths chicken, and we are just within. They're in this long queue. They are giggling every 2 seconds. They talk about their day, their annoying bosses. We was just like the mundane. Do you know what I'm saying? Like not the loud, not the
Yes.
and it's just like love resides in the ordinary. Love is in the ordinary. It's in the ability to inhabit the space and do these seemingly not grand things, but be so certain of the steadiness of that love, right? Because everybody who
Yes.
was commenting on, oh my gosh, she got so long, but it's like it's like a steadiness, and that's the sense that I got from the song. Like when I listened to the song, I thought of that couple. I was like, this is just a steady, certain, and anchored in what I consider to be important. I know that community is important. I want your community and my community to know how I feel about you.
Yes.
I want even the
Yes.
people who are shading and subbing you, it's about jabbing, like there's a thing about that. But also to say like even in the good and the bad, right? Because love resides in the ordinary, and the ordinary is the good and the bad and the in between. And like when I listened to the song, I was like, oh my god, it's that couple. Like if there was a music video for the song, it would be that couple at Woolworths laughing and like kissing in the queue for chicken.
Funny. I love that you're saying that, and you've reminded me. So with this particular person, there was a point where we things got very heated, right? And in the heat of the things, I was so angry. I was so angry. I was telling a friend of mine, and I'm narrating the story to my friend. I'm like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. And in my anger, I was expressing why I was angry because of what the said person had done. But my friend said, "So are you going to forgive them?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I will, but I'm still angry." You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that this song allows for us to show up with the good and the bad, and there's room for all of it. You know what I mean? In the climax of the song, I speak about the families coming together. I say, "Thatha konke kwakho ukulethe lapha kithi, sivuse umuzwa la ekhaya noma bengathini." And then after that, we just elevate the song. I think we take it three keys up, and we're just repeating, "Ngiyakuthanda mntana womuntu, ngiyakushada, ngiyakuhlonipha njalo." You know what I mean? And it just goes in that direction. It's such a beautiful elevation of a simple relationship. Yeah, also just sort of maybe going back to there's a simplicity in the way that abantu bakwaZulu Natal abathandana ngayo. Um, si thina sithandana ngey'ndlela ezilula eyokuthi ngizokuthengela i-airtime ka-R5 ngikulethele nama-fries after a long day. Um, Sizohamba siyohlala epaki doing nothing, just the simple things. And that's what I wanted the song to sound like.
Dating in the city is so complicated. But like, what are these endless talking stages? My husband's from real Eastern Cape. He's like, he doesn't know all of these things. And he's just like, you see somebody, you like them, you approach them, let's go. Hey, Joburg, but
And
it's so complicated.
it's so funny you should say that because Zulu men are always catching smoke for saying siyakuthanda. Like kuhlezi kuthiwa a Zulu man will see you on day one, no say to say siyakuthanda. And the truth is, yeah, but vele ngiyakuthanda.
We think, I know dating in Joburg is very complicated, but it's 5 million talking stages.
It does.
What was interesting for me about the song was thinking about Bell Hooks, right, in her book All About Love. And Bell Hooks speaks about she speaks about mutuality and she speaks about romantic love. And she says there was a time where she was having a cancer scare, right? And when she was having a cancer scare, it was in that moment where she said to herself that I need to experience like the real type of love. Like I can't have lived my life and not said that I have not known love, right? And for me, I feel that the song in the turning of the tides is saying, like, I know I've been through whatever this is, but here is me giving a real opportunity for me to say, Nam, I want to know love, right? And being
Yes.
hopeful about those particular things. And like sort of the togetherness of now I'm marrying you and we're starting this together forever. It's like I know that it's not going to be easy, but one thing I know for sure, as Bell Hooks says, we do not have to love, we choose to love. So the song encapsulates this idea of like I will make a decision to choose you every day, right?
Yeah.
In the mundane, in the ordinary. And I thought it was so beautiful because I was like, oh, this is even like a nice song because like in the vernacular man, even if you don't know isiZulu, like I feel like the way that the song is sung, you're just like whatever is happening here is a good thing. I don't know what it is, but it's a good thing, right? And I love that so much. I wanted to speak a bit about New Day, right? Because New Day, particularly after it's complicated, it's just like a welcome relief, right? Because it's like upbeat. Every day is a new day, a different day. But it's also a choice that you make, right? A choice that
Mm,
you make. Things that affected me yesterday are not going to affect me today, right? So this
true.
idea of willing and will bending whatever reality you want to do, right? That the world is not perfect, but one thing I know is that I can make this world perfect for myself, right? And so it's a
Yes.
different new day, I tell myself, right? And I wanted to speak about that, right? This, the Bible says, although sorrow may endure for a night, joy comes in the morning, right? And so this
Come
is
through.
new day
Preach.
for me is that, right? It's just like joy comes in the morning, but morning is not anything that has an AM on it. Morning is a decision,
Mm,
as you say, I am going to make the decision that today is going to be a different day. So I wanted to speak about that idea, right? The idea of of creating your own new day and what that
mm.
means, particularly coming from like Mugo Wo Ole, why you don't have a WhatsApp profile picture, what that looks like.
But to add to that, Letokonolo, what's interesting is Harrison says, I told myself that I'm done and that I won't
Yes.
turn back and that it's a thing of the past, right? And there's like a sense of acceptance. So it's, you know what, at some point I'm going to have to love myself more than I love this person. And sometimes loving myself more than I love this person means that I need to just move on, right? And there's a thing about that I'm interested in. Like I've just told myself, oh, to come rain, come shine, I could miss the way you used to buy me chicken licken every Friday, and I that was my
Yes.
thing. But I just cannot turn back. There's an intentionality in that I found very, very interesting.
It ties in beautifully with the and then I told myself that if I fall, I'll have to get back up. That even if I can't keep up to this decision of saying I'm not turning back, even if I make a mistake and I go back to you, I'm gonna get up. The
Yes.
minute, even if I make the mistake and I drunk call you and I end up at your apartment, about the day papa mangi sober, I'll remember Guti, I said I am leaving this person and I will get up from there and my new day will start at that point. It, it,
A
it,
sense
it
of grace that you give yourself, right? That I think is really important.
yes.
Grace is to say that I'm not perfect, right? So
Yeah.
even if I stumble, I'm going to grace myself and be like, every day is a new day. You know, babes,
Yeah.
I will try again tomorrow. Like, yes, I called you. Yes, I showed up at your apartment, but tomorrow is a new day. And that grace is so important because I often think that, like, we live in a society where people believe, like, once you've made a decision, you've made a decision, and you
Mm,
can't go back to the decision. But I think love is a little bit more complicated than that, right? Like this is someone that you've been intimate with, that you've shared the deepest and the most softest parts of yourself, right? I don't think that you just cut the umbilical cord and leave. Sometimes it's like, actually, Harrison is the only person who's going to understand what I'm going through in this moment. And it's Harrison.
and what New Day sort of does to love is that it introduces you to yourself. After umgo and after a relationship, you lose yourself. Sometimes you forget the things that you love. You forget your morning routine. When this song came to me and when I wrote the song, it was literally just I want people to listen to the song in the morning and to develop a new routine, a new morning routine. um or to or even if it's not a new morning routine, an old one where you go back to yourself and it's like, today is a brand new day. It's a new day. Everything that happened yesterday is not allowed to happen today. So don't you worry. Sort of don't worry about it. Just live and enjoy this day, with all that it brings. Yeah.
I,
So
I
so I
really
love
love
New Day.
I really
I
love this
also love
song.
beauty,
Like,
right?
and I
It's
love
like
because it is a coming into yourself type of situation.
Yeah.
mm,
A moment of reckoning and you saying to yourself, listen, you know what, Harrison, you may not have been kind to yourself, but like this
mm,
step in you walking in your own kindness and a step in you showing up for yourself in ways that you haven't showed up. And
Yes.
I think it's really
mm,
important because for me, I remember like taking a jog and listening to New Day, and like I just found myself having to stop a little bit, like to take in the moment, right, and just be like, it is a new day. It is indeed a new day, right? I want to
And
talk about my least favorite song.
let me
Least,
guess. Let me guess. Let me guess.
Yeah, please
least.
guess, because it's also my least favorite song.
Typical girl.
I
Oh,
I
you know
think first of all, I have to say, can we appreciate the production masterpiece behind Typical Girl? Can I just have a round of applause for the horns at least? At
I
least.
want to give a like dabs for the horns, but it's like, you know, we've had this very nuanced, we've had this EP that looks at love and people in their complexities in relationships in very nuanced ways, right? And then we're just like, oh, you're not a typical girl. And it just, like, what, firstly, what's wrong with being a typical girl? Like, there's all these things about, no, because there's a thing about the ways in which, women get taught about like femininity. And if you don't have a particular, you're shamed for it, but that same femininity then gets you almost like shamed again, right? So you're a typical girl, you like typical girl things, and everybody wants to be like, I'm not like other girls, I'm a cool girl, I'm different. And there's a very particular intentional thing about that, about the intention, about the ways in which people navigate being a typical girl, and it's like, oh, what's wrong with being a typical girl? Like, and I just feel like there's so many nuances in this EP. Like, you just, you nuance, you're a good person, but you're also bad in the relationship, and then there's typical girl. And I think that was what I struggled with, is that I felt that the complexities of which you had treated relationships and love and those journeys in every other part was almost just like summarized here, like, you're not a typical girl, and that's why I love you, because you're not like those other girls.
Drag me.
It's just because I was being a typical girl.
I absolutely take in everything that you've said, Elma. Typical Girl really, really just is. It really is just a song that is very pointed. But maybe let me unpack. Is that gonna help?
Yes,
I just want to enter a little
I'm like, I'm a lily. Okay, she's like a lily amongst thorns. She's not a rose. Okay,
I just want to enter here, right, and provide a little bit more of a benevolent interpretation of typical girl, right? So I listened to it and I'm like, why typical person? Why Njani and why? But then I started going into the lyrics, right? And so we know it says you are a rose among thorns, right? But you choose a lily among thorns, right? So I was like, and maybe this is just me, because na bokwe, I want to figure it everywhere, right? So I'm just like, okay, maybe the words, although I think typical, actually the song, the imagery is not typical, right? So for me, it was like, I wondered if I could find myself in typical girl. And then I was like, maybe if I listen to it, I won't. But when I listened to the lyrics, I found myself, because I was like, you could have said you a rose among thorns, but you said you're a lily, right? So already you are being subversive, and you're saying like, I'm not normative. So it's not typical in the real sense of the word, in the real sense of the word, right? But it's like an underlayered sort of, like, you really have to listen to sort of the nuances, and that's why I love you, because you're not typical. Yeah, because maybe I'm not a gal, and therefore it's yes, that's why you love me, because I'm not a gal. And that's how I entered the song, because I was like, maybe because I think about a lot of like industry, right? And I think about structure, and I think about how sometimes you can't attack the structure right on. So what you do is you are subversive in the way that you attack the structure. So maybe you can call it typical girl, but in the little bit of the song, you're just like, here you go. Here's a little nugget of liliness, and another one here and another one there. So, but we'll listen to you, master writer, about the typical gal.
In the in the first part of the song, asleep on my bed night after night. Okay, so I think maybe the pronouns in the song were a point of argument even for my writing team and I, right? I didn't yeah, the pronouns, the pronoun was a point of fighting, and needless to say, I lost the pronoun fight. However, in the narrative, so in the first part, I go sleep on my bed night after night. I dreamt. I was looking day after day. I couldn't find. I went wandering through the streets, through the alleys, looking for the one that I loved. I looked, and there I found. Remove the pronouns. It's a song of longing. It's a song of when I was thinking about the alleys and I was thinking about the streets, in my head it was at night, and there's a lot of relationships that happen at night. There's a lot of relationships that are sort of lurking emgwaqeni because they don't have homes. They're not necessarily the conventional relationships, but you'll find them in the streets, in the dark
Oh,
corners, in the alleys.
subversive.
You know what I mean? I was really hoping that a lot of communities would find themselves in that space, and that because that's a huge part of my story. That's the alleys and the corners and the whatever, quite a significant part. And I thought we'd all somehow find ourselves there. But in Gaizwa, Leogut is saying you're not a typical girl. Because there's nothing wrong with being a typical girl. I can be a typical girl and want to wear pink and cry a lot and faff and do all of the things that typical
Nothing wrong
girls do.
with nothing wrong with
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think really that's where the song was. But also just to play around with the imagery of a garden.
Mm, mm.
One of the favorite things that I do, I say, let me bring you into the deepest gardens of my heart.
Yes.
And then I speak about you being a lily amongst thorns, that in the gardens of my heart. So there's growth, and there's not just one flower, there's like a variety of flowers in this garden. um so there definitely was the bridge of that particular song. Absolutely love it. It goes, I know sometimes it will be hard, but you and I are tough as one. So come what may, against our love, our fire will not be put out. Whew. I love that. The bridge. I absolutely love the bridge. I'm definitely, yeah. I can't. You guys are not the first people. Somebody said to me, I looked for you in the song and I couldn't find you. And that broke my heart. I was like, how can you not
but
find me in my own
you
song?
know, now I appreciate, now that you've
Mm.
elaborated on what the song means for you and why it was written. Like there's a new appreciation. So now I mean, I've been listening to it in the way that I have, but now I'm going to be like,
Mm.
Okay. So now, yeah, now I'm there. I'm just like,
because those
okay.
artists, I like them. I
Yeah.
suppose the song for me, the last song for me is a little emotional, right? And I'm reminded of Bell Hooks in
Yeah,
her her Bible, all about love.
all about
Bell Hooks
love.
writes, "Love knows no shame. To be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. The way we grieve is informed by whether we know love." And then she says further down, "Love invites us to grieve for the dead as a ritual of mourning and celebration. As we speak our heart in mourning, we share intimate knowledge of the dead, of whom they were and how they lived. We honor their presence by naming the legacies they leave behind." And there's a part in the song, because the song is twofold, right? It's speaking about grief about people who have left, but it's also speaking about grief about people who remain, right? And the first part where you say you'll always be my guardian angel, right? Is that right? Like this grief as celebration and mourning, right? And it was quite like it's tender for me because I was like, oh, yes, I'm gonna be all right, right? Because like death is so permanent, right? And I constantly have to live with the belief of knowing that I'm going to be all right. But I'm
Mm.
also leaning into what Bal says and what the song says, love knows no shame. To be love is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. And so for me, the first part of the song is that, right? It's just this acknowledgement of this persistent thing that is not changing. But it's love. You know, someone said grief is love, it's just love with no place to go. And I felt that the
Mm.
first part of the song encapsulates that, right? Sort of this idea of like, hmm, yeah, you know, you're here and I'm going to do the things that you've done and you're going to guide me and it's going to be beautiful. And then the second sort of part of the song is I think a juxtaposition of complicated. You know, complicated is like, we can still try, we can still do what, but I'm gonna be all right. It's like I accept. You see that thing that you said you are leaving, I accept it. I'm no longer fighting it. I accept it.
Mm.
And you know what? In that acceptance, I'm going to be all right. Like it may not be immediate, but it will happen. There will come a point where the new day happens, right? There will come a point where I'm going to be content with it. And I really love that song. Like, oh, it has my heart. It has my heart.
Elma.
So I wanted to talk about the title song of the EP, which is "The Stranger's Love," right? For a lot of reasons, right? I just want to find my notes on this. But you know, you start the song like she's at the movies, he's at a party, but tonight they're gonna get it on. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me. These two have met before, but fate is able to lead two people together, and love is able to bind two people together. And there's a thing about a stranger love, and like it's sweet and it's tender and it's natural, right? And it's this idea that like two people who absolutely don't know each other, who have nothing really, but there's this collision of whatever forces that bring them together, and there's just a tenderness and a sweetness, but also a trusting, right? There's a trusting in the process that like the universe will unite these two people, God will bring these two people together
Mm.
at whatever point. And like these circumstances don't even have to be ideal, right? So you know, you're always hearing, you'll never meet someone at the club, you'll never meet someone wherever, right? And here are these two just like in the strangest place. One is from Durban, one is from Joburg, and there's like all these unlikely things. And that's some of my favorite thing about love, right? It's like the unlikeliness of is the magic, right? So these two people from two different places with their own baggage, their own lives, and they see each other, and it's like the beginning of this beautiful story. And I loved that this was the title track of the EP.
So, Honolo, I'm coming to all right. I'm really coming to all right. When I approach all right, I need to be all right. Okay.
I
Um,
got you. I got
We're
you.
gonna be right. We're gonna be all right, in the words of a
we
famous
gonna be.
The
What was that
famous
poet? Was that poet standing in Parliament?
I don't even want to comment. Okay, I'm gonna comment, and people will be tagging me in tweets.
In terms of a stranger's love, the the song was written in 2019, right? And I was 2019. I think I was peak presenter search on 3, right? And I'm gonna share the story for the very first time because I'm always alluding to the story, but I've actually never shared it. So, so picked presenter search on 3. My phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's somebody. I'm not gonna say the name. This person's like, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good," and they're like, um, "You don't know who I am, but I know who you are because I've been watching you on TV.
Okay.
And today, tonight was a really good episode for you." No, 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 no. What could it? So that was a good episode for you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And then the person introduces themselves. And then I was like, thank you. Because I'm thinking, you know, you're just calling to whatever. Hey, bo, umuntu abantu phone the next day. Hey, bo, umuntu abantu phone the next day. Hey, bo, umuntu abantu phone the next day. And so eventually we start talking. And in the talking, I remember we'd spend 3 hours on the phone just talking. Um, and I felt so connected to the person, you know. Um, and that's where I wrote that's where a big part of the song started, that's where the song was born. But particularly the song was completely finished on a day where I woke up. I woke up in Durban, and I had breakfast in Durban, and I went to Cape Town to shoot, and I had lunch in Cape Town, and I had to get out of Cape Town to quickly go to Joburg because I had another shoot. And that would be the day where I wrote the song. And I was like, throughout these 3 meals, I had been sitting with absolutely incredible people, and I felt like I was receiving love from complete strangers, people that when I woke up in the morning, I didn't think I'd meet. And also just the love that people show me on the internet. We live in an era where people really, really people can make your day on social media. And I've experienced that. I've experienced people DMing me and showing me love and stuff like that. And it was just amazing. And I think also just Owasetegwe no Asekole, that is actually a true story. Owasetegwe no
Okay.
Asekole. Owasetegwe no Asekole. It is what it is. And that's actually a very true part. That's a very personal thing to me. Wasithegweni waseGoli. Um, and it is, we often, for the longest of times, it was so hard for me to, when this person was showing me that uyangithanda, ngisebenzisa uthanda as a typical Zulu man, ukuthi umuntu uyamthanda. Mhlawumbe uyamlike noma umenzani, but thina ngesiZulu umuntu uyamthanda, awumlike nje umuntu uyamthanda ngesiZulu. Um, for the longest of time when this person was showing me ukuthi uyangithanda, mina, I was still scared of strangers because I had in my head stranger danger. And it took me a long time to realize that it wasn't stranger danger. It was actually a
Just
stranger's love, you know.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And come to think of it, it was so sweet and it was so natural. And it was it was one of the sweetest, in fact, it's one of the sweetest and the most steadiest and the most authentic sort of human connections that I've had. Um, it, somebody that doesn't demand performance, somebody that doesn't demand prove to me that somebody that doesn't, it's not demanding. It's just somebody that says, I'm an individual and I exist in my own orbit, and you're an individual and you exist in your own orbit. Sometimes we cross, and it's beautiful. You know what I mean? I love the fact that you love strangers love. It's amazing. And also there's a part of the song, it's in Zulu, ukungazi kuyafana nokungaboni, amathuba alethwa izinto ongazilindele, you
Mm.
know? And that's it. Sometimes you don't see it because you're not waiting for it.
And that's the one, Wabana. The Wabana Harriet, when we are out touring, that Wabana Stranger's Love is the one you must sing because, ooh, it's that girl.
Strangers love is that girl. Now let's go to all right. You are absolutely correct. Strangers love. I will not strangers love. All right, I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right. Is that song? Um, when you lose people that you love, in the sense that they pass on, you sometimes people leave you and they haven't taught you what you think they needed to teach you. For example, when your parents pass on, it's like, but mom, you haven't taught me this, but dad, you haven't taught me that. And in the All Right song, I didn't wanna I didn't want to speak about the lessons that I didn't learn when my parents left me at a young age. I didn't want to
Mm.
speak about how much I wanted for them to know that I miss them, and I wanted everybody else to know that I miss them because I carry that with me, and that's a big part of who I am. But more than anything, my biggest prayer was I need them to be my guardian angels and never failing. You know what I mean? Um, and sometimes we want to shy away from the fact that we're hurting because these people are gone. Because it's like, okay, then you're gonna hurt. So what? But I wanted to listen to the song 20 years from now and still exist in the grief because the grief is important to me. The grief is important. It's important that I sit in the grief and I feel it and I feel the pain and I feel the sadness and it's important that I feel, of course it doesn't define me, but it's important that I feel it and I had to feel it in the song. Even in the way that I sing the song, the it I don't sing it. I remember in studio we did so many versions and I liked this version because it sounded like it's coming out. I wasn't singing it, it was just coming out.
Mm.
And really that was really it with the All Right song. Um, Writing the song was emotionally taxing and draining. The song was finished, and I'll forever tell the story. There's a friend of mine who lives in Joburg, Kobe Semlas, peak pandemic, and he had lost all his family members.
Mm.
And I couldn't even go support him at the funeral. I could only do it telephonically. And on the day that he buried his family, he said to me, he's now leaving and he's going back to Joburg because that's where his life is and whatever, whatever. And I said to him, so who are you going to leave here in your home? And he was like, no one. Everybody's gone. Ngizovala nje, and I'm going to find somebody that's going to rent the house out. And I said to him, I pray that your family is with you and that they keep guiding you. And that's when really the song was completed in terms of the grief side of it. But also, Letlolo, Letlogonolo, sorry. You're absolutely very correct that also the song comes from a place that says, um, I'm going to be all right. I need my heart to heal because I need to try again.
Mm.
And if I'm going to allow this goodbye, if I'm going to be holding this goodbye in my next hello, then I'm not, it's not good for me because I can't greet my next lover with your goodbye.
Mm.
My next lover must get uhello wakhe, wakhe nje, odeserve uyena. And so I then had to say, I'm going to be all right. And in fact, I am all right. When we love people, it's, we invest so much of ourselves, such big parts of ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to let go, but there comes a point where you're like, okay, let me actually let go because I'll find somebody else. And
Mm.
that's also another part of the song that's also there.
Mm.
Um, and then the last part of the song says, and if my lips don't say what is true, and if my hands are battered and bruised, and if my heart starts sinking in the blues, I know I'm going to be all right. And once the beauty starts fleeting as it does, because the beauty is always fleeting, but I know I'm going to be all right. And that's
Listen,
that's how I want, yeah, yeah. That's where we are. Done.
I mean, Big, this has been an absolutely beautiful, beautiful conversation. I think it also tells us about the many facets and dimensions of love, right? I think about Bell Hooks in All About Love. She says, for Black people, love is a crucial part to healing. And I think that's what A Stranger's Love offers us, right? A sort of moment to sit with the feelings, no matter how uncomfortable that they may be, but also a hope that love is truly a crucial path to healing. That, like, when it comes, when it's true, when it's beautiful, it can be ordinary but extraordinary. So thank you
Yes.
much from the Cheeky Natives for this like offering. It's an offering that we will continue to play and listen to because it's an offering that allows us to return and come back to ourselves and to actually have grace with ourselves and be like, you know what, you did go through that, but you're gonna be all right.
We're gonna
Yeah.
be all right, and we have to play out of my favorite song, as
Which
usual.
tell me, Elma, tell me.
Umntwana
What my
womuntu.
favorite song is? I said it. I told you. I just feel like that just encapsulates what I feel about where love resides and what love looks like. And I think that love is not in the grandness of things. I think that love is in the mundane. Yes. You cannot do that.
Sabotage.
What? What am I doing? I'm not singing. Harrison is singing.
What?
Also, well, episode yomgo.com. Please play that song. Okay, Harrison, you just have to sing that part for me before we log off. Bless us with that part of the song and close us.
The stage is yours.
Which the chorus.
Yes.
The chorus.
Ooh, I love that song. I love that song. It goes Ngiyakuthanda mntana omuntu ngiyakushada Ngiyakuhlonipha mntana omuntu njalo nje ebunzimeni nasemnandini mina nawe sobabili njalo nje.
I just feel I just want the start of A Stranger's Love. I wanna just the start.
Stranger's Love. The start of Strangers. It goes. She's at the movies, he's at a party, but tonight they're gonna get it on. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me. These two have never met before, but fate is able to lead two people together, and love is able to bind two people together.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! The church is open.
Thank you for taking us to church and back. Really congratulate you, Harrison. This is an amazing project. We will always, always, always punt the work of people speaking about Black love and the ways in which we can love each other better and love ourselves better.
Thank you.
And love each other in ways that restore and bring us closer to the best version of ourselves. So thank you so much. We cannot wait to see you live in performance. Okay.
We're just saying, take all our money. As chicken natives, take our money. We are ready. Take it. So perhaps we need to start going to every show just for you to take it. Because it's absolutely a fantastic album and it's worthy supporting. And thank you for everyone who's tuned in and listened to us. We hope that after this, you will go onto wherever streaming site that you're on and play Stranger's Love. And that you will continue to play The Stranger Love and introduce it to new people. But more importantly, that when the tour starts, you are there. You are there. You are right there, and you are buying the tickets, and you are going to listen to Harrison. Harrison, we wish you all the very, very best, and thank you for what has been an incredibly introduction to you and to your work. We hope that to hear more of you, and we hope to hear more about love, because love, again, is a path to healing. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we hope that, like Alma's favorite song, that we am Tolo Umuntu Wako, right? And
yes, I'm going to go serenade my bae with the song right now.
You can sit in the mundane and know that that is what that is also important. All right, goodbye, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me, guys. Bye.